Today's topic is liberty and paternalism. The readings and assignments are Mill on Liberty, Excerpts. John Stuart Mill, Excerpts from On Liberty, read by Karen Mena. Paragraph 1. Like other tyrannies, the tyranny of the majority was at first, and is still vulgarly, held in dread, chiefly as operating through the acts of the public authorities, period. But reflecting persons perceived that when society is itself the tyrant, society collectively, over the separate individuals who compose it, its means of tyrannizing are not restricted to the acts which it may do by the hands of its political functionaries, period. Society can and does execute its own mandates, and if it issues wrong mandates instead of right, or any mandates at all in things with which it ought not to meddle, it practices a social tyranny more formidable than many kinds of political oppression, since, though not usually upheld by such extreme penalties, it leaves fewer means of escape, penetrating much more deeply into the details of life, and enslaving the soul itself, period. Protection, therefore, against the tyranny of the magistrate is not enough, There needs protection also against the tyranny of the prevailing opinion and feeling, against the tendency of society to impose, by other means than civil penalties, its own ideas and practices as rules of conduct on those who dissent from them, to fetter the development, and, if possible, prevent the formation, of any individuality not in harmony with its ways, and compel all characters to fashion themselves upon the model of its own, period. There is a limit to the legitimate interference of collective opinion with individual independence, and to find that limit and maintain it against encroachment, is as indispensable to a good condition of human affairs, as protection against political despotism. Paragraph 2. The object of this essay is to assert one very simple principle, as entitled to govern absolutely the dealings of society with the individual in the way of compulsion and control, whether the means used be physical force in the form of legal penalties, or the moral coercion of public opinion, period. That principle is, that the sole end for which mankind are warranted, individually or collectively in interfering with the liberty of action of any of their number, is self-protection, period. That the only purpose for which power can be rightfully exercised over any member of a civilized community, against his will, is to prevent harm to others. His own good, either physical or moral, is not a sufficient warrant, period. He cannot rightfully be compelled to do so or forbear because it will be better for him to do so, because it will make him happier, because, in the opinions of others, to do so would be wise, or even right, period. These are good reasons for remonstrating with him, or reasoning with him, or persuading him, or entreating him, but not compelling him, or visiting him with any evil, in case he do otherwise, period. To justify that, the conduct from which it is desired to deter him must be calculated to produce evil to someone else, period. The only part of the conduct of any one, for which he is amendable to society, is that which concerns others, period. In the part which merely concerns himself, his independence is, of right, absolute, period. Over himself, over his own body and mind, the individual is sovereign. Thirdly, from this liberty of each individual, follows the liberty, within the same limits, of combination among individuals, freedom to unite, for any purpose not involving harm to others, the persons combining being supposed to be of full age, and not forced or deceived, period. Paragraph 3. No society in which these liberties are not, on the whole, respected, is free, whatever may be its form of government, and none is completely free in which they do not exist absolute and unqualified, period. The only freedom which deserves the name, is that of pursuing our own good in our own way, so long as we do not attempt to deprive others of theirs, or impede their efforts to obtain it, period. Each is the proper guardian of his own health, whether bodily, or mental, or spiritual, period. Mankind are greater gainers by suffering each other to live as seems good to themselves, than by compelling each other to live as seems good to the rest, period. Paragraph 4. Before quitting the subject of freedom of opinion, it is fit to take notice of those who say, that the free expression of all opinions should be permitted, on condition that the manner be temperate, and do not pass the bounds of fair discussion, period. Much might be said on the impossibility of fixing where these supposed bounds are to be placed, for if the test be offense to those whose opinion is attacked, I think experience testifies that this offense is given whenever the attack is telling and powerful, and that every opponent who pushes them hard, and whom they find it difficult to answer, appears to them, if he shows any strong feeling on the subject, an intemperate opponent, period. Paragraph 5. With regard to what is commonly meant by intemperate discussion, namely, invective, sarcasm, personality, and the like, the denunciation of these weapons would deserve more sympathy if it were ever proposed to interdict them equally to both sides, but it is only desired to restrain the employment of them against the prevailing opinion, Against the unprevailing they may not only be used without general disapproval, but will be likely to obtain for him who uses them to praise of honest zeal and righteous indignation, period. Paragraph 6. That mankind are not infallible, that their truths, for the most part, are only half-truths, that unity of opinion, unless resulting from the fullest and freest comparison of opposite opinions, is not desirable, and diversity not an evil, but a good, until mankind are much more capable than at present of recognizing all sides of the truth, are principles applicable to men's modes of action, not less than to their opinions, period. Paragraph 7. In proportion to the development of his individuality, each person becomes more valuable to himself, and is therefore capable of being more valuable to others, period. There is a great fullness of life about his own existence, and when there is more life in the units, there is more in the mass which is composed of them, period. Paragraph 8. People think genius is a fine thing if it enables a man to write an exciting poem, or paint a picture, period. But in its true sense, that of originality in thought and action, though no one says that it is not a thing to be admired, nearly all, at heart, think they can do very well without it, period. Paragraph 9. Meanwhile, recollecting that nothing was ever yet done which someone was not the first to do, and that all good things which exist are the fruits of originality, let them be modest enough to believe that there is something still left for it to accomplish, and assure themselves that they are more in need of originality, the less they are conscious of the want, period. Paragraph 10. In this age, the mere example of nonconformity, their mere refusal to bend the knee to custom, is itself a service, precisely because the tyranny of opinion is such as to make eccentricity a reproach, it is desirable, in order to break through that tyranny, comma, that people should be eccentric, period. Eccentricity has always abounded when and where strength of character has abounded, semicolon. And the amount of eccentricity in a society has generally been proportional to the amount of genius, comma, mental vigor, comma, and moral courage which it contained, period. That so few now dare to be eccentric, comma, marks the chief danger of the time, period. Paragraph 11. But independence of action and disregard of custom are not solely deserving of encouragement for the chances they afford that better modes of action, comma, and customs more worthy of general adoption, comma, may be struck out, semicolon. Nor is it only persons of decided mental superiority who have a just claim to carry on their lives in their own way, period. There is no reason that all human existences should be constructed on someone, comma, or some small number of patterns, period. If a person possesses any tolerable amount of common sense and experience, comma, his own mode of laying out his existence is the best, comma, not because it is the best in itself, comma, but because it is his own mode, period. Paragraph 12. But the man, comma, and still more the woman, comma, who can be accused of either of doing, quotation, what nobody does, comma, or of not doing, quotation, what everybody does, comma, is the subject of as much depreciatory remark as if he or she had committed some grave moral delinquency, period. Persons required to possess a title, comma, or some other badge of rank, comma, or the consideration of people of rank, comma, to be able to indulge somewhat in the luxury of doing as they like without detriment to their estimation. Paragraph 13. The despotism of custom is everywhere the standing hindrance to human advancement, comma, being in unceasing antagonism to that disposition to aim at something better than customary, comma, which is called, comma, according to circumstances, comma, the spirit of liberty, comma, or that of progress or improvement, period. A spirit of improvement is not always a spirit of liberty, comma, for it may aim at forcing improvements on an unwilling people, semicolon. And the spirit of liberty, comma, insofar as it resists such attempts, comma, may ally itself locally and temporarily with the opponents of improvement, semicolon. But the only unfailing and permanent source of improvement is liberty, comma, since by it there are as many possible independent centers of improvement as there are individuals, period. The progressive principle, comma, however, comma, in either shape, comma, whether as the love of liberty or of improvement, comma, is antagonistic to the sway of custom, comma, involving at least emancipation from that yoke, semicolon, and the contest between the two constitutes. Oops, okay, let me start that again. The progressive principle, comma, however, comma, in either shape, comma, whether as the love of liberty or of improvement, comma, is antagonistic to the sway of custom, comma, involving at least emancipation from that yoke, semicolon, and the contest between the two constitutes the chief interest of the history of mankind, period. Paragraph 14. But with regard to the merely contingent or, comma, as it may be called, comma, constructive injury which a person causes to society, comma, by conduct which neither violates any specific duty to the public, comma, nor occasions perceptible hurt to any assignable individual except himself, semicolon, the inconvenience is one which society can afford to bear, comma, for the sake of the greater good of human freedom, period. Paragraph 15. There are many who consider as an injury to themselves any conduct which they have a distaste for, comma, and resent it as an outrage to their feelings, semicolon, as a religious bigot, comma, when charged with disregarding the religious feelings of others, comma, has been known to retort that they disregard his feelings, comma, by persisting in their abominable worship or creed, period. But there is no parity between the feeling of a person for his own opinion, comma, and the feeling of another who is offended at his holding it, semicolon. No more than between the desire of a thief to take a purse, comma, and the desire of the right owner to keep it, period. And a person's taste is as much his own peculiar concern as his opinion or his purse, period. The end.